Millie Evans, interviewed at El Dorado, Arkansas, interviewed by Miss Carol Graham, age when interviewed 88. I was born in 1849, but I don't know just when. My birthday comes in fodder pulling time, 'cause my ma says she was pulling up till about an hour before I was born. Was born in North Carolina and was a young lady at the time of surrender. I don't remember old master's name. All I remember is that we called them old master and old mistress. They had about 100 niggas and they was rich. Master always tended the men and mistress tended to us. Every morning about 4 o'clock, old master would ring the bell for us to get up by, and you could hear that bell ringing all over the plantation. I can hear it now. It would go ting-a-ling, ting-a-ling, and I can see them now stirring in Carolina. I get so lonesome when I thinks about times we used to have. That was better living back yonder than now. I stayed with my ma every night, but my mistress raised me. My ma had to work hard, so every time old mistress thought we little black chillins was hungry between meals, she would call us up to the house to eat. Sometimes she would give us Johnny cake and plenty of buttermilk to drink with it. They had a long throw with buttermilk, and all the children would get around the throw and drink with our mouths and hold our Johnny cake with our hands. I could just see myself drinking now. It was so good. There were so many black folks to cook for that. The cooking was done outdoors. Greens was cooked in a big black wash pot, just like you boils clothes in now. And sometimes they would crumble bread in the pot, liquor, and give us spoons, and we would stand around the pot and eat. When we ate our regular meals, the table was set under a chinnaberry tree with old cloth, tablecloth. And when they called us to the table, they would ring the bell, but we didn't eat out of plates. We ate out of gourds and handmade, homemade wood spoons, and we had plenty to eat. Whoa, just plenty to eat. Old master's folks raised plenty of meat, and they raised the sugar, rice, peas, chickens, eggs, cows, and just everything good to eat. Every evening at 3 o'clock, old mistress would call all us litsies, bitsies, children in, and we would lay down on pallets and have to go to sleep. I can hear her now singing to us pickaninnies. When I got big enough, I nursed my mistress' baby. When the baby go to sleep in the evening, I will put it in the cradle and lay down by the cradle and go to sleep. I played a heap when I was little. We played Susanna Gal, jump rope, calling cows, running, jumping, skipping, and just everything we could think of. When I got big enough to cook, I cooked for them. The kitchen of the big house was built way off from the house, and we cooked on a great big old fireplace. We had swing pots, and we would swing them over the fire and cook, and had a big old skillet with legs on it. We called it an oven and cooked bread and cakes in it. We had the best mistress and master in the world, and they was Christian folks, and they taught us to be Christian-like too. Every Sunday morning, old master would have all us niggers to the house while he would sing and pray and read the Bible to us all. Old master taught us not to be bad. He taught us to be good. He taught us to never steal, nor to tell false tales, and not to do anything that was bad. He said you will reap what you sow, that you sow it single and reap it double. I learned that when I was a little child, and I ain't forgot it yet. When I got grown, I went to the Baptist way. God called my pa to preach, and old master let him preach in the kitchen and in the backyard under the trees on preaching day. Old master took his whole family and all these slaves to church with him. Down in the quarters, every black family had a 1 or 2 room log cabin. We didn't have no floors in the cabins. Nice dirt floors was the style then, and we used sage brooms, took a string and tied the sage together and had a nice broom out of that. We would gather broom sage for our winter brooms just like we gathered our other winter stuff. We kept our dirt floors swept clean and white, and our bed was big and tall and had little beds to push under there. They was all little enough to go under the other, and in the daytime we would push them all under the big one and make heaps of room. Our beds were stuffed with hay and straw and shucks, and believe me, child, they sure slept good. When the boys would start the quarters from the field, they would get a turn of litter knots. I expect you knows them as pine knots. That was what we used for light. When our fire went out, we had no fire. Didn't know nothing about no matches to start a fire. We would take a skillet lid and a piece of cotton and a flint rock, lay cotton on the skillet lid and take a piece of iron and beat the flint rock till the fire would come. Sometimes we would beat for 30 minutes before the fire would come and start the cotton. Then we would light our pine up at the big house. We didn't use litter knots, but used tallow candles for lights. We made the candles from tallow that we took from cows. We had molds and would put strings in there and leave the ends sticking out to light and melt the tallow and pour it down around the string in the mold. We used to play at night by moonlight, and I can recollect singing with the fiddle. Oh Lord, that fiddle could almost talk, and I can hear it ringing now. Sometime we would dance in the moonlight too. Old master raised lots of cotton, and women folks carded and spun and wove clothes. Then they dyed it and made clothes, and we knit all the stockings we wore. They made their dye too from different kinds of bark and leaves and things. They would take the bark and boil it and strain it up and let it stand a day, then wet the material in cold water and shake it out and drop in the boiling dye and let it set about 20 minutes. Then take it out and hang it up and let it dry right out of that dye. Then rinse it in cold water and let it dry. Then it will be ready to make. I'll tell you how to dye. A little beech bark dyes, slate color, set with copperas, hickory bark, and bay leaves dye yellow, set with chamber lye, bamboo dyes, turkey red, set color with copperas, pine straw, dyes purple, set color with chamber lye. To dye cloth brown, we would take the cloth and put it in the water where leather had been tanned and let it soak. Then set the color with apple vinegar, and we dyed blue with indigo and set the color with alum. We wore drawers made out of domestic that came down longer than our dresses, and we wore 7 petticoats in the winter with sleeves in them, and the boys wore old long shirts. They didn't know nothing about no breeches till they was great big, just went round in the shirt tails. And we all wore shoes, 'cause my pa made shoes. Master taught pa to make shoes, and the way he done, they killed a cow and took the hide and tanned it. The way they tanned it was to take red oak bark and put it in vats, made something like throws that held water. First he would put in a layer of leather and a layer of oak ashes and a layer of leather and a layer of oak ashes till he got it all in a covered with water. After that he let it soak till the hair come off the hide. Then he would take the hide out and it was ready for tanning. Then the hide was put to soak in with the red oak bark. It stayed in the water till the hide turned tan. Then Paul took the hide out of the red oak dyes, and it was a pretty tan. It didn't have to soak long. Then he would get his pattern and cut and make 10 shoes out of the tanned hides. He called them brogans. They planted indigo and it growed just like wheat. When it got ripe, they gathered it and we would put it in a barrel and let it soak about a week. Then we would take the indigo stems out and squeeze all the juice out of them and put the juice back in the barrel and let it stand about another week. Then we just stirred and stirred one whole day. We let it set 3 or 4 days and then drained the water off and left these settlings. And these settlings was bluing just like we have these days. We cut ours in little blocks and we dyed clothes with it too. We made vinegar out of apples, took overripe apples and ground them up and put them in a sack and let it drip. Didn't add no water, and when it got through dripping, we let it sour and stained it and let it stand for 6 months and had some of the best vinegar ever made. We had homemade tubs and didn't have no washboards. We had a block and a battling stick. We put our clothes and soaked them, then took them out of soak and laid them on the block and take the battling stick and battle the dirt out of them. We mostly use rattan vines for clotheslines, and they made the best clotheslines they was. Old master raised big patches of tobacco, and when they gathered it, they let it dry and then put it in molasses. After the molasses dripped off, then they rolled it up and twisted it and let it dry in the sun 10 or 12 days. It sure was ready for chewing, and it was sweet and stuck together so you could chew and spit and enjoy it. The way we got our perfume, we took rose leaves, Cape jasmines, and sweet basils and laid them with our clothes and let them stay 3 or 4 days. Then we had good smelling clothes that would last too. When there was distressful news, master would ring the bell. When the niggers in the field would hear the bell, everyone would listen and wonder what the trouble was. You'd see them stirring too. They would always ring the bell at 12 o'clock. Sometimes they would think it was something serious and they would stand up straight, but if they could see the shadow right, under them, they would know it was time for dinner. The reason so many white folks was rich was they made money and didn't have nothing to do but save it. They made money and raised everything they used and just didn't have no use for money. Didn't have no banks in them days, and Master buried his money. The floors in the big house were so pretty and white. We always kept them scored good. We didn't know what it was to use soap. We just took oak ashes out of the fireplace and sprinkled them on the floor and scorched with a corn suck mop. Then we would sweep the ashes off and rinse 2 times and let it dry. When it dried, it was the cleanest floor there was. To make it white, clean, sand was sprinkled on the floor and we let it stay a couple of days. Then the floor would be too clean to walk on. The way we dried the floor was with a sack and a rag. We would get down on our knees and dry it so dry. I remember one night one of old master's girls was going to get married. That was after I was big enough to cook, and we was sure doing some cooking. Some of the niggers on the place just naturally would steal, so we would cook a big cake of cornbread and iced it all pretty and put it out to cool, and some of them stole it. This way old master found out who was doing the stealing, 'cause it was such a joke on them they had to tell. All old master niggers were married by the white preacher, but he had a neighbor who would marry his niggers himself. He would say to the man, "Do you want this woman?" And to the girl, "Do you want this boy?" Then he would call the old mistress to fetch the broom, and old master would hold one end and old mistress the other and tell the boy and girl to jump this broom, and he would say, "That's your wife." They called marrying like that jumping the broom. I can't remember everything I done in them days, but we didn't have to worry about nothing. Old mistress was the one to worry. It was then like it was now. No, it wasn't. We had such a good time and everybody cried when the Yankees cried out, "Free other niggers." Say D had a hard time before they was free, but 'tis then like it is now. If you had a hard time, we done it ourselves. Old master didn't want to part with his niggers, and the niggers didn't want to part with old master. So they thought by coming to Arkansas, they could have a chance to keep them. So they got on their way. We loaded up our wagons and put up our wagon sheet, and we had plenty to eat and plenty of horse feed. We traveled about 15 or 20 miles a day and would stop and camp at night. We would cook enough in the morning to last all day. The cows was drove together. Some was gentle and some was not. And did they have a time? I mean, they had a time. While we was on our way, old master died, and 3 of their slaves died too. We buried the slaves there, but we camped while old master was carried back to North Carolina. When old mistress come back, we started on to Arkansas and reached there safe. But when we got here, we found freedom here too. Old mistress begged us to stay with her, and we stayed till she died. Then they took her back to Carolina. There wasn't nobody left but Miss Nancy, and she soon married and left, and I lost track of her and Mr. Tom.